September 1975, Burbank, California. A conference room on the Warner Brothers lot. Clint Eastwood sits across from three studio executives who have just offered him $8 million. It's the biggest deal in Hollywood history for a single actor. The contract is already drafted. All he has to do is sign. He doesn't touch the pen. The head of production, a man named Frank Wells, slides the contract closer. His smile is practiced, confident. Clint, this is unprecedented. $8 million for 3 pictures. Complete creative control. Your own production company on the lot. Everything you've been working toward. Clint reads the contract slowly. His face reveals nothing. The room is silent except for the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of a soundstage door closing. Wells shifts in his seat. The other executives exchange glances. They've been negotiating for 6 weeks. They thought this was done. "There's a clause here," Clint says finally. His voice is low, measured. Page 7. Approval rights. Wells nods. Standard language. The studio retains final approval on directors for any project you're not directing yourself, and casting only for roles above a certain budget threshold. It's protection, Clint, for both sides. Protection from what? Wells hesitates. From mistakes. From projects that don't perform. This is a significant investment. We need certain guardrails. Clint closes the contract, slides it back across the table. I don't need guardrails. The room temperature seems to drop. Wells laughs, but it's forced. Clint, let's be realistic. You're not walking away from $8 million because of a standard approval clause. I am. That's insane. Maybe. To understand this moment, you need to understand where Clint Eastwood came from. He didn't grow up rich. He grew up during the Depression, watching his father work construction jobs, move the family from town to town, chasing work that barely kept food on the table. Clint learned early that security was an illusion, that the only thing you could control was yourself. He came to Hollywood in 1954 with $100 in his pocket and a face that casting directors called too distinctive. For 6 years, he took whatever he could get. Bit parts, westerns, B-movies. He was in his 30s before he got his first real break, a TV western called Rawhide. It paid $750 an episode. He was grateful for it. Then came Italy. Sergio Leone. A fistful of dollars. The man with no name. And suddenly, Clint Eastwood was a star. But not the kind of star Hollywood was used to. He didn't play the game, didn't go to parties, didn't schmooze, didn't compromise. When he came back to America in 1968, the studios wanted him. But they wanted him on their terms. They wanted to control him, shape him, turn him into their asset. And Clint understood something most actors didn't. Once you give them control, you never get it back. Dirty Harry made him a phenomenon. $36 million at the box office in 1971. Suddenly, Clint Eastwood wasn't just a star. He was a brand, a guarantee. And Warner Brothers wanted to lock him down. That's how he ended up in this conference room with $8 million on the table and 3 executives who thought they were about to own him. Wells tries a different approach. Clint, think about what you're saying. This isn't just about you. This is about your future, your family. Do you know how many actors would kill for this deal? I'm not other actors, clearly. But you're also not immune to reality. You walk away from this, other studios will hear about it. They'll think you're difficult, unreasonable. It'll affect your career. Then it affects my career. One of the other executives, a younger man named Rothman, leans forward. His voice is harder, less conciliatory. You realize you're not as essential as you think you are. There are other actors. We can build other stars. Clint looks at him. The look is calm, but there's something beneath it. Something immovable. Then build them. Wells holds up his hands. Gentlemen, let's not be hasty. Clint, what would make this work for you? Talk to us. We're flexible. Remove the approval clauses. We can't do that. Then we're done here. Clint stands. The meeting has lasted 12 minutes. Wells stands too, panic creeping into his voice. "Clint, sit down. Let's talk about this. We can find middle ground." "I don't need middle ground. I need to own my work. You'll own it. The production company will be yours. Your name on the door, my name on the door, your hand on the switch." "That's not ownership. That's a leash." Rothman's face is red now. "You're making a massive mistake. You walk out that door, this offer disappears. You'll never see another deal like this." Clint looks at him for a long moment. "Good." He walks out. The door closes behind him. The three executives sit in stunned silence. They've just been rejected by Clint Eastwood. They've just had the biggest deal in Hollywood history thrown back in their faces. And they have no idea what to do about it. Wells is the first to speak. His voice is quiet, dangerous. He just committed career suicide. Rothman nods. "We need to make sure everyone knows about this. Quietly, let it spread, make him untouchable." "What do you mean?" "I mean, we let the other studios know he's difficult, that he's unreasonable, that he thinks he's bigger than the system. We don't blacklist him officially. We just make sure nobody else makes the mistake of offering him that kind of money or that kind of control." Wells considers this, then nods. "Make the calls." Over the next 6 months, Clint Eastwood becomes a pariah in Hollywood. Not publicly. He's still a star. His films still make money. But behind closed doors, the whispers start. He's difficult. He's arrogant. He thinks he's above the studio system. And one by one, the big offers stop coming. Other studios that were courting him suddenly go quiet. Projects that seemed certain fall apart. His agent calls less frequently. When Clint asks what's happening, the agent is honest. "You've been marked, Clint. Warner Brothers put the word out. The other majors are respecting it. Nobody wants to touch you for a major deal." Clint takes this information in. Doesn't argue, doesn't rage, just thinks. Then he makes a decision. If Hollywood won't give him the control he needs, he'll take it. He forms his own production company, not under a studio umbrella, independent. He mortgages his house, takes out loans, scrapes together $3 million, and makes The Outlaw Josie Wales, a Western about a man who refuses to surrender even when everyone tells him he should. The studios are skeptical. Independent productions rarely succeed. They don't have the marketing muscle, the distribution network, the institutional support. Conventional wisdom says Clint Eastwood just threw away $3 million and whatever was left of his career. The Outlaw Josie Wales opens in August 1976. It makes $31 million at the box office. Critics call it Clint's best work. Audiences love it. And suddenly the whispers in Hollywood change. He's not difficult. He's visionary. He's not arrogant. He's independent. He's not above the system. He's outside it. And that makes him dangerous, because Clint Eastwood just proved you don't need the studio system. You don't need their approval or their control or their money. You can make films on your own terms, and if they work, if they connect with audiences, the system has to respect that. Frank Wells watches this happen from his office at Warner Brothers. He's furious, not because Clint succeeded, but because Clint succeeded without them. Because he proved that the power the studios held, the leverage they wielded, was based on fear. And Clint wasn't afraid. In 1978, Wells makes a call. He wants a meeting with Clint. No contract, no negotiation, just a conversation. They meet at a diner in Burbank. Wells arrives first, orders coffee, waits. Clint arrives 10 minutes later, sits down across from him, doesn't order anything. Wells speaks first. "I owe you an apology." Clint listens. "We tried to box you in, tried to control you, and when you wouldn't let us, we tried to hurt you. That was wrong." "Yes, it was?" Wells nods. "You proved something, Clint, something I didn't think was possible, that an actor could operate independently and succeed, that the system doesn't own you, the system never owned me. I know that now. And I'm not here to offer you another deal. I know you don't want one. I'm here to ask what happens next, because you've created a model that other actors are going to follow. And if they do, the entire structure of Hollywood changes. Clint considers this good. Good, this system is built on control, on fear, on making people believe they need you more than you need them. But it's a lie. The only thing anyone needs is good work. Tell good stories. Make good films. The audience will find them. Everything else is just noise. Wells sits back. You really believe that? I do. Then Hollywood is going to change, whether we want it to or not. I hope so. They sit in silence for a moment. Then Wells stands, drops money on the table for his coffee, and walks out. He never speaks to Clint Eastwood again. Over the next 4 decades, Clint proves the point again and again. He makes films on his terms. No studio interference, no approval clauses, no compromise. He directs what he wants, casts who he wants, tells the stories he believes in, and he doesn't just succeed, he thrives. Unforgiven, $1 Million Baby, Gran Torino, American Sniper, Mystic River, Letters from Iwo Jima, film after film, decade after decade, 4 Academy Awards, critical acclaim, commercial success. All of it done independently, all of it on his terms. And every time a young actor or director asks him how he did it, how he built a career without bending to the system, Clint tells them the same thing. You can't be afraid to walk away. The moment you need them more than they need you, you've lost. The moment you sign away control because you're scared of losing the opportunity, you've become a tool. And tools get discarded when they're no longer useful. In 2019, a journalist from Variety asks Clint about that meeting in 1975, about the $8 million he turned down, about whether he regrets it. Clint looks at him like the question is absurd. Why would I regret it? Because it was $8 million. In 1975, and if I'd taken it, I would have spent the next 40 years making films for them, not for me. I would have been wealthy, but I wouldn't have been free. Was it worth it? Clint thinks for a moment. Every day, that's who Clint Eastwood is. Not the cowboy, not the action hero. The man who understood that power is worthless if you surrender it for comfort. That success means nothing if you achieve it on someone else's terms. That the price of freedom is risk. And sometimes you have to risk everything to keep what matters most. In that conference room in 1975, Frank Wells thought he was offering Clint Eastwood security, money, status, everything an actor could want. But he was really offering a cage, a golden cage with his name on it, and Clint saw through it instantly. The studios never forgave him for that, not because he rejected their offer, but because he proved they were wrong. That the system they built, the control they wielded, the power they held over actors, directors, and artists was only as strong as people's fear. And Clint Eastwood wasn't afraid. He walked away from millions, and in doing so, he gained something worth more than any contract could offer. His independence, his integrity, his freedom to make art on his own terms. That's the legacy. Not just the films, not just the awards, but the example. The proof that you can say no, that you can walk away, that you can build something without surrendering who you are. Years after that meeting, a young director approaches Clint at a film festival. He's nervous, excited. Mr. Eastwood, I just signed my first studio deal. 7 figures. It's everything I've dreamed of. Clint nods. Congratulations. I wanted to ask you, how do I make sure I don't lose myself in the process? How do I keep control? Clint looks at him, really looks at him. You already lost it. The young director's face falls. What do you mean? The moment you signed that deal, you gave them control. Now you have to earn it back. That's going to take time. Years probably, maybe decades. But if you're smart, if you're patient, if you do good work and prove you're worth trusting, eventually they'll give it back to you. And if they don't, then you walk away. No matter how much they're paying you, no matter how secure it feels. You walk away and you build something yourself. Because at the end of your life, nobody's going to remember how much money you made. They're going to remember what you created. And if you didn't create it on your terms, it wasn't really yours. The young director nods. He understands. Or at least he thinks he does. But understanding and living it are different things. Most people understand the principle. Few people have the courage to live it. Clint Eastwood has lived it for 50 years, and in that time he's created a body of work that belongs to him. Not to a studio, not to executives, not to a system. To him, and to the audiences who connected with his films. That conference room in Burbank still exists. It's been remodeled twice. The executives who sat across from Clint are long gone. Wells died in a helicopter crash in 1994. Rothman retired in the early 2000s. But the story remains, whispered in Hollywood circles, a cautionary tale, or an inspiration, depending on who's telling it. For the studios, it's a warning. Don't try to control the artists who don't want to be controlled. You'll lose. For the artists, it's a blueprint. Freedom is possible, but you have to be willing to sacrifice for it. Clint Eastwood turned 94 in 2024. He's still directing, still making films, still doing it on his terms. And when people ask him if he'd do anything differently, if he'd go back and sign that contract, take that $8 million, make those compromises, he gives the same answer every time. No, not because he's stubborn, not because he's proud, but because he knows something that took Hollywood decades to understand. The money doesn't matter, the security doesn't matter, the approval doesn't matter. What matters is the work, and the freedom to do it right. That's Clint Eastwood. Silent, stubborn, independent. The man who walked away from millions because he knew that some things can't be bought, some things can't be controlled, and some things are worth more than any contract could ever offer. And Hollywood never forgave him for it, not because he failed, but because he succeeded. Without them, despite them, in defiance of everything they believed about power and control and how the business worked. He proved them wrong, and that's something they could never accept. But Clint didn't need their acceptance. He never did. He just needed his freedom, and he kept it, for 50 years and counting. If this story resonates, if it reminds you that some things are worth fighting for, consider subscribing. Not because I need your support, but because these stories need to be told, and maybe, somewhere, someone needs to hear them.